Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe, we fixed the audio problems tonight. So hopefully I won't be clipping again like we were last week, and that was totally our bad. We totally, and by we I mean I totally messed up the audio last week. And then we had the camera way out of focus, and so we're all over the place. But we've got a pretty good, I think well, that doesn't give me confidence. The preview just showed up on our screen. But I think we've got a pretty... Oh, it's good there. Okay. Yeah, I think we've got a pretty good, a good quality stream in terms of the technical side for you guys tonight. Speaking of the stream, I've got Matthew over here.
What's up?
You have to talk into the microphone.
Oh yeah, I'm just used to looking at myself whenever I'm speaking,
Yeah.
but now I can actually talk
Now
to
you can
Joe
talk to
and
me.
not worry about it.
So
But at
you're
the
showing
same
camera
time,
3.
camera 3.
Yeah, it's on 3 on the keyboard.
I keep forgetting. I
Yeah.
just do that.
So
So
you're
far
over
away.
there. So we've got like a conversation setup going, which I think it's a cool different setup that we're trying out this time. We don't have Cameron with us tonight, as you can hear from the. Oh!
I didn't do that.
So his arm is not feeling well. He broke his wrist a while ago, falling off a scooter, as you guys probably know.
No. Joe's completely wrong. He saved a child from a bear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. So he's not with us tonight, but we've got an interesting podcast for you tonight, nonetheless. If it's a little more echoey tonight, it's because I have the garage door open because it was like really hot in here. So it's open a little bit and it's holding up the curtain behind me. So we're trying out some new stuff tonight, but what do you say we get into it? I have 3 news stories up.
Do you?
I do. Let's start with Let's start with high-speed internet into space. It's the one you were just on.
Oh.
Yep, that one.
All right.
And I'm seat 1, I think. Yep. Oh, why am I in the middle of the screen?
Don't worry about it.
Hey, I'll just stall. So, we're going to be talking about this news story. There's a startup called Aquarian Space, and basically they're saying they want to give high-speed internet to the moon and to Mars for astronauts going up there in the near future. Which I saw this and I thought that it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to talk about it because
Okay.
I love that the first thing we think of for space exploration is, well, we gotta let the astronauts have high-speed internet. And I'm being sorry.
It could support a lot of like space missions and stuff, but like, I think they're just planning ahead for the future
For
and
hotels.
then when we live there in hotels because space is such a big commercial district that's
Yeah.
just waiting to be exploited.
You know what it makes me think of?
What?
Are you too much into the Halo lore?
Just a little bit.
So do you know what the precursors are, right?
The race that lived before everything else.
Yeah,
and
they created all the life in the galaxy in Halo, and essentially they had these things called star roads. Do you remember that?
yeah, and how they kept the DNA of everybody when the flood came.
No,
but
that's
that is unrelated.
the Forerunners.
Oh, that's
That's the Forerunners.
Wait, is
I'm
it the
talking about
race
the
that
precursors.
competed with the human race to be the new Forerunners?
No, that's the Forerunners.
I'm so confused. Okay,
You-
continue.
So the precursors were before the Forerunners and before everybody. They seeded the galaxy with life. They bestowed the mantle of responsibility upon to the humans, and so the Forerunners wiped out the precursors so that they could assume the mantle of responsibility.
Yeah.
Then the precursors basically turned into the flood because they do this weird thing where they can molecularly decompose themselves into this space dust and then reform themselves later when a time it's more suitable. It's kind of like a mold, but it got corrupted and created the flood. And eventually the humans had to run away from the flood, and they ran towards the Forerunners, and the Forerunners thought that the humans were invading them. So then they had their human Forerunner wars. And actually the Sanshayum, which are the prophet species in Halo, were actually allied with the humans at that point.
That race just flew over my head. I have no idea what that
Sanshayum?
means. Yeah.
The prophets in Halo? The prophet of truth, prophet of regret.
That makes
It's their race.
Okay.
The high prophets.
Those weird guys. Yeah.
So essentially they had this war, and then they realized, oh crap, after they dominated and killed pretty much all the humans and then subjugated them, they realized, oh, they were running from the flood. And so then they built Halo, and all the rest is the same, general lore of the story with the Halo firing and the one that everybody knows. But what this internet in space for us reminded me of was the star roads of the precursors, because essentially what the star roads were is they were basically a neural net for the entire galaxy, and you could communicate, and the domain was part of it.
What's the domain?
In Halo 5, it's set up by the precursors, maintained by the Forerunners. It's basically a collective store of all the galactic knowledge in the galaxy, which it's basically just the internet.
Yeah.
And that's really what it makes me think of, to be honest. Internet in space, star roads in the domain.
How long will humans' legacy live on in the universe, Joe? Like, little traces of humanity. Even, do you think the human race will continue on, or just traces of us?
So I don't know, and this is exactly what I want to talk about tonight. And you're doing a great job at producing, I have to say.
Yeah, gotcha.
But this is exactly what I wanted to talk about tonight, because I want to talk about the future of humanity. If we are able to coalesce into a single, for lack of a better term, empire, or for lack of a better term, a human empire, the empire of humanity, let's say.
Yeah.
If we're able to coalesce and join as a species, then yes, I see us outlasting the Earth. I see us outlasting our solar system. But if we are unable to do that,
there's a time limit of how far technology needs to be in order to successfully outlive our solar system, have enough resources to do that, and biggest hurdle is distance. Hard to get somewhere else.
Absolutely. It is hard to get other places in the universe just because of time and space. Which is what our universe is made of, space-time.
Exactly.
And I don't know how we are already on here, but this ties back to my dimensional warp theory, which I was talking about a long time ago, but I won't even get into that because it's too complicated, and I don't want to do another video about it. But yeah, essentially, we just can't really go that fast compared to the speed of light. And really what we need to do, and who knows if it's even physically possible, is to find a way to create an Einstein-Rosen bridge, or it's more accurately, or I was going to say canonically, but I guess that's the word, more canonically known as a wormhole.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what you meant.
Yeah, an Einstein-Rosen bridge. So that's the scientific term.
Okay.
So essentially, folding space-time, but the thing that gets me is whenever you've all heard, and we brought it up before, where you fold a piece of paper and punch a pen through it, and then there's your wormhole. The problem with that is that's in 2 dimensions. So the amount of energy to do that in 2 dimensions is a lot less. And it's a lot simpler to comprehend.
Yeah.
Now, we live in 3 dimensions. To imagine folding 3 dimensions, you have to be a 4th dimensional being. So that begs the question, do we have to ascend to a higher dimension to be able to fold space-time?
How do you ascend to another dimension, Joe?
Yeah, I have no idea.
So, you're telling me by the time the solar system dies, the humanity would need to be able to master the 4th dimension, have the technology to keep the same, how do I say this? Not waste any energy that we have, because the Earth is no longer here. Our resources are no longer here. Self-sustaining.
I suppose. I think a better way to look at it we have to be able to produce enough energy to sustain our civilization. We have to be able to have enough cohesion to live in a peaceful and cohesive manner. First of all, I think that's something a lot of people overlook, is you can't just... The thing about us humans is we love our opinions, and we love our beliefs, and our principles, and our morals, and I think that's a very good thing. The problem with that is not everyone has the same opinions, principles, beliefs, morals. Yeah. So you run into problems with, obviously just disagreements, and then that can turn into, more chaos, war, and so on and so forth. So I think that's something people overlook when they look to the future of colonizing space and stuff. What happens when you become so distant from the Earth and you're on a completely different planet, and you're thinking, why is the Earth still governing us? But that's more in the near future. Okay. I mean, in the long term.
I feel like the government is just going to come with civilization. There's always going to be a system to control people, and those at high power always control others. That's how it's been since the beginning of time, and that's how it's always going to be. So to change that basic nature of humanity to be in a tribe and tribal system, it's hard to get rid of.
See, I don't think. First of all, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think the tribal system is a very good thing. I think it's good to have leaders.
Exactly.
The problem is if you have like one cult personality or like one good leader and then everyone else is a terrible leader. It's not. You have to strike a balance between everyone being a leader and just one person being a leader. Because if you have one person being a leader, what happens when that leader leaves?
Yeah.
Everything falls apart. And if you have everyone being a leader, well, then everyone wants to lead.
Yeah.
And so that'll create problems with disagreements and chaos and war.
And-
So you have to find a good balance where you have enough leaders, but not too much that it starts chaos, and not too few that it'll all fall apart after you die.
Joe, our main source of energy comes from the sun. How are we going to
Everything comes
supply?
from the sun.
Yeah, how are we going to supply ourselves?
Well, it depends where we go. If we are within our solar system, everything will trace back to the sun.
Once it's gone.
Once it's gone, well, it'd have to be a different star. Or the one thing that does not come from our sun is nuclear energy.
Oh, that's easy.
So that's, I mean, yeah, that's an easy answer right there, is nuclear energy. And that creates a crap ton of energy. And it is absolutely clean, except for the nuclear waste, which we are getting better and better at recycling and dealing with.
Why are people so scared of making more, like, nuclear power plants?
Because I don't think people realize how far the technology's come. In recent years, the technology has advanced so much that we can literally make reactors the size of this room we're in. I mean, like from that end of the room to this end.
Yeah.
And stand it up, put it in a pool of water.
Yeah.
And have it be so safe that it can't even physically melt down anymore. That's how far the technology's come.
It's just a lack of public education.
I wouldn't say public education. I'd say instead of a lack, I'd say it's too much propaganda. I'd say it's two parts. I'd say one side of the argument is the oil companies, and if nuclear wins, their whole business is out because they can't compete with nuclear. The amount of energy that it can produce is it's insane compared to coal and oil.
In my mind, it seems like such an easy decision to just go nuclear energy to supply everything.
It's a lot more complicated than that because you have to build up the infrastructure and you have to take time and do it right. Because I absolutely agree with the people who say if you do it wrong, and if you mess up, it absolutely could be a catastrophe. But if you do it right,
well, where was it? The tsunami in Japan? They did it right, but they weren't ready for such a global disaster.
Well, yeah, when you live on an island and you are susceptible to earthquakes and tsunamis like Japan is, and you don't prepare for the likely event that there's going to be an earthquake or tsunami, and still we're talking about 1980s technology at that point. It wasn't a brand new reactor at that time. So the technology's still come a lot longer of a way in terms of safety nowadays than back then. So I honestly don't see that being too much of a problem. And I don't see that being too much of a problem.
Okay.
Just the safety and the technology has come so far since then.
Okay.
And the other side of the coin, getting back to what I was saying, the oil companies, how they don't want to go out of business. But then the other side of that is there's just a lot of people who lived through the Cold War and heard nuclear as this buzzword. You know, nuclear this, nuclear that, and then nuclear bombs, which are really scary.
Yeah.
And honestly, that term just in our society has a negative connotation, and that takes generations to overcome, because that word is so ingrained.
So the gas companies would take advantage of that, lobby against it, and it's like, it's never going to happen.
That's absolutely what it is. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people lobbying to these government agencies. It's really what it is. The thing that baffles me is why the people who are totally for like no carbon emissions, no this, that, or otherwise, the Green New Deal, like all that stuff. I don't understand why they're not into nuclear, because it's literally the perfect solution. There is no carbon emissions. It is 100% clean except for the waste, which we are getting really good at dealing with. And I don't know if it's stupidity Again, this gets I'm totally stepping on the wires. I don't know if it's stupidity or if it's ignorance or that's stupidity. I don't know if it's. This goes back to what we were talking about last time. Is it ignorance or malice? You know?
Ignorance.
I see. I don't know though, because at some point you have to realize that you're either wrong or you're lying. At some point, I refuse to believe that that people have made it to Congress and through graduate school who think these things, who don't say either I have an ulterior motive and I'm lying, or I just don't understand how they could be so ignorant to the fact that what they're saying is wrong.
I think once you reach that point, you're lying, but they made it to themselves already, and they're happy with the fact, Joe. They don't have it. You're thinking at it wrong. They're okay with the fact that they're lying.
Well, I'm not saying if it's wrong or right. Oh, okay. I'm just saying I can't see how it could be ignorance.
Okay.
You know, but again, this is all my opinion, and who's to say what's going on in those kinds of people's heads? We're not that kind of that kind of person. I mean, it could be. It could very well be, or popularity.
Let's take the comment.
Okay, what's the comment?
We have a comment from Joshua Brops. Can astronauts have high-speed data? Data transmission is limited by the speed of light, right? I don't really know. So won't there be an interval of delay? Well, of course.
Hold on, keep it on you.
You're always delayed by the speed of light. In fact, isn't it like 8 minutes to the moon? Or how much was it for the Apollo missions?
Let's see. Depending on how they send it, will depend on the speed. If they send it with a form of the visible light spectrum, or sorry, not the visible light, the electromagnetic spectrum, then yes, it'll be limited to the speed of light. But since the moon is so close, it wouldn't impact anything, because the moon is just so close to us compared to the speed of light. However, if you get into things like light years, then yes, it'll be incredibly slow. The moon's not light years away. It's, I want to say, 300,000 kilometers away, somewhere around there. So it'd still be pretty damn near fast. It won't be instantaneous. Like you could probably see a delay, but it'd still be pretty damn near instantaneous. Okay. So but the high-speed internet thing is, if you want it, if you're doing it a different, I don't know if there's a different way to do it other than the visible light or the electromagnetic radiation spectrum. What do you think?
No, there's no other way. That's the fastest way.
It could be. What if we could find a way to do it through wormholes, like mini wormholes? I mean, obviously we can't right now.
That's in the far, far future, Joe. You're thinking all the way. Somehow, somebody, you know what's so cool? Somebody's gonna find that out. Someone's gonna change the world by finding that. How to do that. It's gonna change everything, how humans work. It's gonna excel human technological advances by. It's to send us in the future, basically. That's a big stepping stone.
That would be really cool. And flick the bug that's on the blanket behind you. Oh my god. All right. So yeah, that'd be if you take my idea and you invent something, you better call it like the Joe C's effect or something like that.
But he's the one who invented it. It has all the formulas and like everything.
Yeah, but I came up with the idea.
But Joe, everything that you're thinking has been thought about by thousands of other people.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Probably someone has the same thought as you.
I'm being a little facetious. What's that?
How did they raise $650,000? By whom and for?
Oh, it's probably stuff like Kickstarter. People are really into like just donating money to random startups. I don't know why.
Who has spare money like that?
Give it to investors. Me. Yeah, investors who want to return and think that it's gonna be a good return for them. Who knows? Maybe it's the same people who are investing in like space hotels that don't even exist yet. I want to say there's a company that's trying to send up a space hotel into low Earth orbit.
Do you get a percent of the profits?
It depends on what you're doing. If it's like a regular stock, then yeah. If it has a dividend, then sure, you get a percent of the profits, based on how much how many stocks you own, or shares you own. But if it's just startup, then there's no real guarantee that you really get anything, or Kickstarter. I mean, if it's on Kickstarter, then I mean you have to agree. The company has to agree to give you something for your donation in the event that they succeed. So I'm sure it's something along those lines. I'm sure people wouldn't just give it money and then not think twice about it. I'm sure there's a motive of returns on investment. So, what's up?
No, we just have an interesting chat that I can't say out loud. But thank you, Scrumbus. We will.
This is why. So I found out the other day that YouTube has disabled our chat replay, and permanently, by the way, and didn't give me any notice. Didn't give me anything. Just I can't check the box anymore.
It's all Joe's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I did. They didn't tell me what I did. Who knows? It's YouTube. They don't generally like small creators. They like the big media, big bucks.
Let's just go to Twitch.
Twitch isn't much better. And Twitch is better for copyright. But it's not better in terms of of freedom of speech. Yeah, I was telling Matthew before the show, I'd love to make this into something that could get me a little cash on the side, you know? But I mean, right now I just do it for fun because I like talking, and everybody knows I like talking because I'm me.
Joe loves talking. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, can I chime in?" He's like, let me finish.
Dude, last time I was like wired. I don't know. I don't know what I was. I just had a lot of ideas and a lot of stuff to say that podcast last week. I don't. Yeah. I mean, we had a good conversation, me and Cameron. We had a bunch of good conversations, but yeah, I didn't really let you talk. I'm sorry about that.
I was not allowed. I had to wait my turn in line.
Although, to be fair, I edited for about 5 hours this weekend. I edited. Is edited even a word? Anyway,
That's what I say.
I edited for about 5 hours all the podcasts that we've been doing, and I'm slowly going to. I scheduled them to release Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 2 p.m. So you get a new clip every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Just a little more content on the channel to go through, and I've noticed that I took the amount of time that people watched our videos for, and I just said, okay, that's how long the clips are going to be. Okay. And then I just put that in. So we've got one clip from last week's podcast already up on YouTube. And then there's going to be one Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. None Friday because that's when the audio version of this podcast comes out. And then none Monday because we have the actual podcast.
Joe, you need to get better at thumbnails. You got to put big arrows, big red circles.
Did you see the thumbnail I sent you?
I saw that one. But it has to be red circles.
Red circles?
And also, Scrumbus, make a whole script for us to read word by word for our next podcast, okay?
Anyway. Yeah, we need to get a thumbnail editor. I forget who's the guy on YouTube that's like notorious for thumbnails?
There's so many.
Well, I know there's so many, but there's that one. I feel like there's that one channel that's just like got the best thumbnail game.
Can't remember.
Okay, well, I don't know.
We got more chats.
Well, you want to read them?
Yeah. Josh said, "How would a galactic government work? How would laws be enforced, or could they be enforced?"
So that depends upon the speed of communication and the ability to enforce is basically what it would come down to. Essentially, see, it's tricky, and we actually had this conversation back in high school when we were designing a video game around this premise. The premise was basically that there was a civil war in space between the Earth Empire and like the outer rim of the solar system, and it was interesting. We never finished it, and I think we only got one level done.
I liked it.
But it was a cool premise, but that's essentially what this is. What do you think, Matthew? What do you think government in space would look like from... Well, essentially, the Earth would be the capital planet, let's say. What do you think it would look like if the Earth starts colonizing just different bodies in the solar system and trying to govern them if they have a substantial population?
It would be almost the same thing. Territories from Earth would carry over to wherever Mars or whatever, but some laws would differ based on the circumstances of the environment or such like that, and there may be problems with people saying, how is it this law here but this law here? I don't know. It's gonna have to be a middle ground there, have to strike.
What do you mean by... Well, I'm more asking, like, what do you think the...
How are they gonna govern it?
yeah, how are they gonna govern it? Like, how is it gonna like physically or not physically, but like technically work? You know?
There's going to be a clear disconnect between the two. There may be different cultures will arise. In order to stop that, maybe the internet could play a role into that.
That's a
Or
good
there'd be
point.
high-speed transportation from both planets to create a greater
Yeah.
connect between the two before there's a disconnect of religion, culture, and morals.
So I honestly, I just had this idea, or this thought, I should say. The 13 colonies that broke away to the United States, it's because they were separated by such a far distance and there was no communication, essentially, unless you took a ship over. So, and then, you know, that could take weeks or months, depending on where you're going from. So, I wonder if that would be any different now that there's high-speed internet, that its connection's almost instantaneous. I bet you're right. And I haven't put much thought to that. I bet you it would be a lot different because of instant connectivity and communication.
Because there's all this time to build up this anger and hate for, like, say, taxes or unfair laws, and then you send mail out. It's gonna take what? How long does it take to cross the Atlantic Ocean?
The Atlantic Ocean nowadays, like
nowadays,
3 hours. But
Back then.
back then, maybe not 3 hours, more like 9 hours. But back then, well, it depends where you're sailing from. If you were sailing from Great Britain to New York, I think it's around about a month and a few weeks.
See, exactly.
You can probably fact check me on that, but I think it's around about that time. Then, if you're going from like I don't know, Spain to Brazil, I think that can take up to like 2 months, 2 months and a few weeks. Okay, we got some more chats.
The bottom one.
Okay. So this is still what we're talking about. I can't freaking talk. Governance would be neat if they had limited communication, because it would end up like older civilization, methinks. And yeah, that's exactly what we were just talking about. That's if it had slower communication, it would create that disconnect you were saying, and the cultures would slowly shift apart. But if I bet it, and that's interesting because I bet it would be really different if because of that instant communication. I bet you the cultures would stay a lot more similar, or at least shift apart a lot slower.
Yeah.
Am I reading this next one?
I can read.
Okay.
That one. See, we should have the famous YouTuber Autumn Astronaut onto our
Who's that?
Scrum Business channel.
Oh.
And then we should have him here. It'll boost our views like by 100. I'm telling
Yeah,
you
hey,
right now. And make our thumbnails and videos. He's a pro.
Dude, if you want to make our thumbnails, be my guest for the clips. For these podcasts, I try to keep them just all the same, for uniformity, because I put them all in a playlist. But if you want to do the thumbnails for the clips, hey, be my guest. That'd be great. But yeah, if any of you guys want to come on the podcasts that are familiar with us in real life, not just any random viewer of the channel, although we love all of our random viewers of the channel. Unfortunately, we can't all invite you over to the studio.
Especially those who type out random letters and
Yeah,
leave.
that we have no idea what it means. We get a few of those. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what they're saying.
Neither do I. But hey, that's a pretty good conversation we had on that first nudist article. I'm glad I brought that up. But I want to shift gears a little bit.
No. Let's make a space Roman Empire. That's what
What's that?
Scrumbus says. Let's have a space Roman Empire.
Yeah, just stay away from Brutus and the entire Senate. So let's move on to the rocket rollout. So, for those of you who don't know, NASA is sending another mission to the moon, and this is something that Trump started back in 2018, 2019, 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. Why do I feel all echoey all of a sudden? That's weird. I don't know. Whatever. Watch back all the audio, and it's terrible. Yeah, it just sounds weird, different now. Anyway, what was I talking about, Matthew? Right. So this started under Trump's administration, like 2019, 2018, where he basically said, I want NASA to go back to the moon so that they can be the first Americans, the first feet on Mars. And by some miracle, the Biden administration hasn't wiped that yet. So we're still doing that, I guess. And this is the Artemis program, which is essentially going back to the moon and setting up a permanent research station there, the Lunar Gateway, and then I think I could be wrong, but I think they're also planning something later down the line to do a actual base on the moon.
I thought that was covered on in the video where they showed their entire plan.
Yeah, I believe so. Right? Yeah. So, the first launch that they're doing, I don't know if it says there. I think the first launch is just doing an orbit around the moon just to make sure that, because we're a little rusty. We haven't gone back to the moon in a really long time. So just to make sure we can do it safely and then come back. I don't think it has any astronauts on it. I think the second one, they're sending up astronauts and the Lunar Gateway. So definitely fact check me on that, because I'm a little rusty on the Artemis program. So do you want to read something?
I was trying to look through to, fact check you, but they keep going on and on about the past.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, please do fact check me. I think this article is all about comparing the physical rocket to the Saturn V.
Comparison.
Yeah, so it's a little different.
Oh, Josh wants to go back to our topic about them.
Well, we're on this topic now. Sorry.
He says, say a developed Mars population wants war with Earth. What would the military tactics used? Or what would be the military tactics used? And I have a perfect answer for this one.
Okay,
It'll just be like the Cold War. Will be on one side of the world we have nuclear arms trained against the other side. And it'll just be mutually assured destruction. That's right. That's what I think.
Okay. So I actually disagree. Completely.
Okay.
So there's actually a video game of this, Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty, and that's exactly what this was. It was Mars versus Earth, and Mars like invaded Earth and did all this funky stuff. But yeah, honestly, I don't think it would be mutually assured destruction, and because I don't think we have the capabilities yet to deliver a nuke with a strong enough payload to devastate another planet. And I hope to God we never have that capability. So no, I don't think it'll be mutually assured destruction. I also don't think we'll ever bring nukes into space, onto other planets, unless we have an absolute reason to, which would be an outside threat. I think as long as the Earth is colonizing other places, we won't ever bring nukes there. But if those planets develop the capabilities to make them, then maybe you have a case. But that's my idea. I think it'll absolutely be a battle fought in who has the most warships in space, or who can land the most troops on the opposing planet or the opposing territory. Go for it.
If we do invite Scrumbus, he's just going to talk about Halo lore and present it as science. That is a very good point. Anything Halo lore related is just a telling of what's the future in the past, what came before it. It's just realism, or it happened already.
That's actually really funny. That's one of the titles of my clips. Is Halo is pretty much science, right? Yeah. That's literally one of the titles of the clips that I have. That'll be coming out in a week or two. I forget when I scheduled it. But anyway, going back to the Artemis program, I'm really excited for this, Matthew. I would love to see another trip to the moon. And I mean, I know everyone already knows this about me, because I'm a nerd. Everybody already knows it. I'm just kind of a social nerd, which is kind of a, I don't know, is that a little bit, no, what's the word? Not ironic, but counterintuitive, maybe? What are you bringing up? The Artemis plan? Oh, cool. Yeah, we brought this up, I want to say during the first season in one of our episodes. Oh, I like all those blank pages.
They always have.
That's stupid. We don't care about that. Let's keep going. Bring it up on the screen.
I do have it.
Oh. I was looking at the wrong screen. Keep going down. There should be a graphic.
Chapter 1. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so I guess they're still on target for landing actual people on the moon in 2024. Oh, that one. Nope. Is it that one? It might be that one. Ooh. Halo launch? Are we going to have the Halo rings?
Halo deliveries will begin to the lunar surface. Bah, 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 bah.
So is that the first mission that they're doing? No. We've already done those 3.
Sure?
Yeah, we're on Artemis 1. So what's Artemis 1 say?
Read it.
Uncrewed, yeah, I was right. Uncrewed maiden flight of the Integrated Space Launch System, or SLS, rocket and Orion spacecraft will verify spacecraft performance and test Orion's heat shield during its high speed. Yeah, so I was absolutely correct about Artemis 1.
Wrong.
Then Artemis 2. Actually, I'm sorry. PPE and Halo launch. That looks like that's going to be the first pieces of the gateway. And then Artemis 2 is going to be finishing setting up the gateway. Is that what that is? 10-day crewed flight test. NASA astronauts will set the record for the farthest human travel from Earth. They will validate deep space communication and navigation systems to ensure life support systems keep them healthy and safe.
So the setup, doing it.
And then Artemis 1 and 2, Orion, once again, travel to the moon, this time boarding the human landing system, and then put the next people on the moon. See, I'm probably going to get canceled for this, Matthew. And I don't care.
You don't care?
I don't care anymore. YouTube can demonetize me or do whatever. I don't even make money on this, so they can't even demonetize me yet.
Oh.
But I don't understand why it is appealing to people to say the first women. I don't understand. It doesn't matter to me who, if it's a man or a woman who does it first, but why is it more important to say the first woman and the first man? Why isn't it just whoever did it first, you know? Isn't it more important that who did it first? Because the whole thing that I'm thinking of, and I'm going to talk over you for just a second.
Right. I have the answer.
This whole thing with diversity, and I'm absolutely going to get probably canceled for this, and I don't really care anymore. But this whole thing with diversity is, I don't understand why it's such a big deal to have diversity of gender and race. I think the only thing that people should care about is diversity of thought. Because if you have diverse thoughts, that's when you can have a good conversation. That's when you can actually get stuff done. And I do understand with diversity of thought would probably come diversity of gender and race. But if you focus on we have to have this set number of people of, you know, being this certain race or this certain gender, and then we have to make it a point that females have to be the first to do this, or we have to push females to do this, and we have to push men to do this, and we have to, you know, have a quota for everybody. Isn't that more racist to say you can't do this because you're a white man, you can't do this because you're a black man, you can't do this because you're a Asian woman? You know, isn't that just seems racist to me? That's my whole take on it.
But there's an easy answer. Publicity. Pandering to our generation.
You have to talk to the microphone.
Pandering to our generation, and to make it so that everybody is included. And also, it's since that a woman going to space is more rare than a man going to space, it serves
historically, yes. I don't know if that's true anymore.
I think it still is.
It still is? Okay.
I'm almost 100% confident.
Okay. I know there's several women on the International Space Station, but I digress. I disagree with you. I don't think it's because of inclusion. I think it absolutely discludes more qualified people than it actually includes.
It's just whoever's most qualified should go.
Absolutely, I agree. Whoever's the most qualified should do it, and I don't care if you're a man, woman. I don't care if you're gay, straight. I don't care. I don't care as long as you're qualified, and that should be our attitude. But I'm gonna get canceled for this, so who cares?
Ooh, look at that, lofty goals.
So I hope that they're still on schedule for 2024, bringing it back to this conversation. I don't really want to talk about all this crap anymore. It's kind of depressing. But uh-oh. Yeah, let me see. I'm not gonna read that one, but you guys can read it in the chat.
Yes, you should.
That's a yeah. This is why we need him on the show. We need a different opinion than ours, because we can't just keep having the same opinions of us on the show. We absolutely need another opinion. Like I said, we need diversity of thought.
Alex will completely disagree with everything Joe is saying.
Absolutely.
And put him to shame.
Absolutely. And honestly, I want that. I want to have a good conversation, a respectful conversation, mind you, but I want to have a good conversation of opposing viewpoints. That would be amazing. Because, and the one thing, and I'm going to get a tiny little bit political here, just for a second. The one thing that I have noticed about our current society is that a lot of people don't really value different opinions. And we're kind of tunnel visioned into our own opinions.
Because they're wrong.
Well, exactly. That's my point. Is that that's the mindset of a lot of people. And I don't think if you can have civil dialogue and you can come to some sort of agreement or even just some common ground, that's the way we move forward as a society. You know, we find common ground. We can we can civilly talk about our issues instead of having to fight over them. And I think if a lot more people were willing to have meaningful dialogue and actual conversations rather than clickbait, oh, I'm owning you, or, you know, stuff like that. It's like, that's the problem. And honestly, both sides of the political spectrum have this. The right has this, and the right has a really big problem with, oh, yeah, I owned that liberal. Or, you know, and then the left has like, oh, yeah, that stupid Republican, I owned him. So both sides have a really bad problem with that. And I want to say that's probably fueling the divide we're hearing right now, but I don't want to talk about that anymore. So let's get back to space. Unless you wanted to add something.
No.
Okay. So do you want me to read this, or what are we doing?
I'm currently just looking through. Yeah, I'm just saying how.
So, and honestly, that is a really lofty goal.
Yeah.
To go to the moon to land people on the moon in 2024. That is a really lofty goal, and I really hope that they're on target for that, because I know China's already sent a space station into space.
Has it really been 50 years? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time, and there hasn't really been the incentive. But nowadays, because of this whole commercial space race that we were talking about in an earlier episode, there's been a renewed interest in space, and honestly, I think it's a great thing. I mean, obviously, I think it's a great thing. I'm on the freaking AstroCast. But the reason I think it's a great thing is because there's a lot of resources and a lot of knowledge we can gain from space. Right. Asteroids have tons of ore. The moon, there's water on the moon. Yep. There's frozen ice on the moon that we can literally use to create hydrogen and oxygen for fuel and for breathing.
There's an economic way, and also space travel encourages the improvement of technology that greatly helps us on Earth. And also, Scrumbus says he's agreeing with what you were saying about both sides agreeing with each other.
No, it's becoming a really big problem, and I think that honestly, the way we fix it is just by having civil dialogue, conversations.
Look, this relates perfectly.
Yeah.
Josh says a large problem in this world is the division of people. We have found almost every way to divide into different groups like nationality, race, wealth, etc. If you were able to unify people, what would be a strategy to maintain unity? What morals would you incorporate?
So this is a little bit more of what we were talking about last podcast, so I might refer you to those clips or that podcast. But unity is a really tough thing among humans, and I honestly think humans do a better job of management at the local level. People, and what that means in not a legal term or a political term is, people do a lot better job at being unified, for lack of a better term, or for cooperative action. They do that a lot better in smaller groups, in tribes, if you will. Yeah. And that's kind of just the way our species has evolved. And because of the sheer number of people on the Earth, it's kind of getting less and less able to do that, which is why I like federalism so much in the United States. And I think the Constitution lays that out in a very good way. And I think going away from that, which is what kind of is going on right now, I think it's not a very good idea. That's the whole idea behind, republicanism or federalism, a representative democracy. Because a lot of people think, and this isn't political, this is just history. A lot of people think we live in a democracy. We don't. We live in a representative, you can call it a representative democracy. Ultimately, it's a republic, which means that we have representatives who represent us in making laws and in passing legislation and such. And there is a really big difference, because ultimately 100% democracy is just mob rule. And that absolutely crushes the little guy.
It's horrible.
It crushes the little guy. And what we used to have outlined in the Constitution with federalism was, you had everything was federalized, and not meaning everything was the federal government, but meaning, because that word's kind of changed connotation, but meaning.
How so?
Well, I'll explain it. That meaning, back in the day, you had the federal government, or the centralized government. That did all the things that the states, that had to do with between the states, or that the states couldn't do. Then the Constitution said everything else goes to the states. And then the states some of them were set up that way too, to where the centralized governments of the states had representatives and they weren't voted upon by a democratic majority.
Yeah.
Although be it back in the day, they were only voted upon by landowners. I think male landowners at that time.
Yes, very specific.
And I will give it that back in the day, mainly the landowners who were male were also white. But I want to get into something a little bit later about that, that I'll get into later. But what was I talking about?
Later, as in like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, probably. What was I talking about?
You're giving a history lesson about how the U.S. is federalist.
Yeah, basically, that'd be the way to do it. That'd be the way to do a government in space. We're much better at managing ourselves at a local level, because that's honestly, if the problems are all local, the best way to deal with it is locally. Like with infrastructure. If you deal with it locally, it's a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient. If you do it federally, then the dollar goes a lot less, for lack of a better way of phrasing that.
Joe's referring to like government jobs and how it takes forever to do a government contracted job elsewhere or infrastructure like that, and how the money goes here, the money has to go here, and it's too complicated for such a simple task.
Yes, they overcomplicate it, and it's like that by design, because people have lobbied to do that, and it's evolved to that over time, just because people have started to realize, oh well, I can just ask a little more for this and still do the same thing, and then I'll make more money, and the government will just give it to me.
Yeah.
So, but I've already been way too political on this. I hate making this show political because we're supposed to be about science, but it kind of seems unavoidable in some topics. When we're talking about the future of humanity, it kind of comes up a lot.
When you're talking about humanity, and we're talking about how to govern it, it's gonna go back to politics, and politics is messy because people are messy.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not going to share it, but there's only 3 hills that I'll die on in terms of like principles and politics. There's only 3 hills I'll die on, and I might talk about that in a later podcast, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Pretty much everything else, I'm absolutely open for people to change my mind. Like I think having a rigid political perspective is kind of not a very good idea, because this is my opinion. You know, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And admitting that you could be wrong is a really good trait to have in today's society, because not a lot of people can do that. And I'm not trying to raise myself on a pedestal. There's absolutely things where I could be wrong, and I will not admit that I'm wrong. Like there's definitely things, and Matthew will attest to this.
I think it's just a natural human trait to like hold dear some of your values and morals to the bitter end, and that's what, I don't know if it's a problem or a good trait. And also, Alexander's kind of disappointed that he's not here right now, because I'm pretty sure he would refute a lot of your claims right now.
Oh, probably.
Or butt in and say, hey, but this could work, or this. Yeah, I'm sorry. We got to get him on.
Oh, absolutely. Text me after the show, Alex, and we will get you on, because we'll schedule you in, because that's absolutely a conversation we need to have. And if we get political, then so be it. We'll just set that podcast to be a political podcast. But generally, I don't like getting political. But it's like I said, it's kind of unavoidable on the topic we're on tonight.
Yeah.
So, well, do we want to move on to the next topic? We have one more topic. What time is it? 8:52.
Yeah.
It has not already been 52 minutes. Holy cow.
I'm gone.
Hey, we've been talking a while.
We have so many chats.
I know. It's awesome. So.
Ooh, this looks cool.
I think we'll skip the last topic that I put down.
Why?
Just because it's not that eventful.
I was gonna ask. I saw. I think we talked about it before, but the scientists discovered a way to. Oh, we still have that one. You want me to use this one?
Yeah, you haven't used it much.
All right. Where did I look? Okay.
Oh wait, no, go back to the other one. Your microphone's not on that one. Sorry.
How to use was it particles from space in order to create propulsion, or what was it? It was a light.
Ion engines.
That was ion.
You're talking about ion engines?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ion engines are basically, they take and what they do nowadays is xenon gas. They take xenon gas and they ionize it, and then they shoot it out of a nozzle. And basically, how that works is they have a high pressurized container of xenon gas. They put it through a nozzle, and then you have a very thin wire that's I don't exactly remember what the material they make it out of is, but you have a really thin wire, and that wire is positively charged. Then you have a thin sheet of foil of some sort of metal, and I forget what material. I think if you make it by yourself, I think the wire's copper and the foil's aluminum, but that's just because you're making it by yourself. But if you do it in a space setting, obviously it's going to be a little different. But I digress. The wire is positively charged. The sheet is negatively charged, and the positive charges. It's a insanely high voltage that's generated between these 2 points, and the charges that are between those, or the charges from the positive wire, kind of move on to the xenon gas that's traveling by, and they want to get to the negative foil. That's just your basic coulombs right there, and that basically just causes an acceleration, and it's really that simple. It's just an air traveling over a foil that accelerates it because of Coulomb's law. And ultimately, Coulomb's laws got pretty much replaced by Maxwell's equations, and so you can talk about Maxwell's equations when you talk about a ion thruster, but essentially that's how it works.
Solar electric.
So yeah, you have to have an insane voltage. So solar panels are pretty good at providing a good voltage. I believe it's not so much amperage, but they're pretty good at doing voltage.
So this is how they're gonna do it.
Doing what?
Solar electric propulsion system.
So is that a satellite or what is it?
It's a geostationary orbit satellite.
Okay. Oh, that's the propulsion module of the gateway.
Yeah.
Okay. Because yeah, so that's the thing. Once you get the gateway in orbit, it doesn't need to move much. You're already in orbit. The propulsion's really just to move it out of the way if it's going to hit something, which ion thrusters are not good at moving it out of the way. They have a very low specific impulse, but they have a very high acceleration over time. What's that say? You want me to read it?
Yeah. Right,
So this is in the PDF that Matthew found about the Artemis mission. And it essentially says, after Artemis 3, which is the final mission where they're going to land boots on the moon, NASA and its partners will embark on missions on and around the moon that also will prepare us for the types of mission durations and operations that we will experience on humans' missions to Mars. In this drive towards a more robust human lunar enterprise, NASA, U.S. industry, and our global partners will establish the infrastructure, systems, and robotic missions that can enable a sustained lunar surface presence. So that's what we were talking about earlier. That's really cool. I would love to see a base on the moon just because I'm a nerd and I think it's cool. For no other reason.
Read that.
And so it's on the south pole of the moon.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Water,
so
no?
I think that's where the water is, yes. Honestly, I really hope you can see that through a telescope. You probably won't be able to. It's probably going to be way too small. But wouldn't that be so cool if you could see the lunar base from a telescope?
That'd be pretty cool, but you need a high power telescope for that. And what I was thinking is, this is gonna be really cool for our generation to
Absolutely.
We're gonna see this live on television, moon live feed. Can you believe that?
That's insane, man. I'm excited.
We're
I'm over the moon. I'm sorry.
You're killing me, Joe.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
That was too funny.
No, it's just gonna be cool. You're just gonna see like a vlogger on the moon. It's just the astronaut will be like, "Hey guys, this is the lunar surface. Check out my guy over there. He's on the lunar rover. He's just driving around." That's incredible.
Oh. Yeah, that's I really hope TikTok doesn't make it to the moon. TikTok is the devil.
Yep, it is.
Anyway, do we have any more chats? Because we're kind of running out of time here.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Maybe we can end it here.
What time is it? Yeah, so
It's on
we'll take it 3 more minutes because we started at 8:01. So I try to keep it around about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So any other last comments, Matthew?
No.
Nothing?
I was just thinking about how every time we do a podcast, we go back to morals.
Yeah, honestly,
it's the base of all things.
Well,
so.
yeah, it's the foundation of all of our arguments, all of our everything is what our principles and our morals are, and ultimately what makes a strong society is having good, grounded principles and morals, and Oh my gosh, is that a freeway system on the moon? Oh, that's funny. Wait, no, that's not a freeway system on the moon.
Why are we doing?
That's the size of that's Washington
Okay,
D.C.
I
They're
was
comparing
gonna say,
Washington D.C. to a
what
crater
is
on the moon.
this?
I was gonna say, no way,
Like a
they're already
freeway
planning
system.
freeways on the moon. That's funny.
That looks cool.
Oh, that is cool. What is that?
Artist concept the gateway.
Gateway, including international contributions with Orion approaching. That's cool. So I don't believe Russia was on this mission. I know the European Space Agency was, and I know I think the either the Canadian or the Japanese Space Agency was, one of the two. So I doubt the current geopolitical climate of what's going on with Russia is going to affect this. However, the international dude, it must be so awkward on the International Space Station right now.
Oh, I think that one of the rules on the International Space Station is to keep politics out of it.
I think so.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, I think
it
I've
still
been
must
speaking
be
too much
awkward.
this way.
Yeah, you're supposed to be talking to me. That's why I have the microphones right here.
I'm so sorry, Joe. The audio probably sucked for me.
That's
Oh,
okay.
well.
I could still hear you in here.
Okay, look, imagine how cool it'd be to work with this NASA engineer with lunar drill payload prototype.
Oh wow,
That guy's cool.
that's cool.
That's cool.
You know, NASA's cool and all, but I wouldn't want to work for a government agency.
I
Just-
would love to be lazy.
Well, I know you would love to work for a government agency. Just my principles would not go well with me working at a government agency, because I feel like I would work harder, or I would work harder than the average, and that would kind of, I don't know, and I'd be getting paid the same amount. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I'm probably saying it poorly.
You put in too much of your brain power effort,
Yeah,
but maybe
compared
someone.
to what everyone else
But
is
people
doing.
who are in NASA probably. There's smarter people out there, Joe.
Yeah, to be fair, NASA I think is probably one of the better ones, but I still would rather work at SpaceX than NASA, just because I think SpaceX is doing cool stuff. But I don't know. Who knows? But I think we might end it there. And why don't you bring up the intro ads, because we didn't do it at the start of the video.
Gosh, isn't it?
I think it's either 9 or 8 or something. So make sure you guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. I don't know how much it actually helps, but yeah, if you want to give it a like, if you like the video, that'd be much appreciated. If you want to subscribe so you don't miss another episode of the AstroCast Live, you can go ahead and do so. And while you're at it, click the bell for notifications. Or should I say smash that bell, so you don't miss another episode of the AstroCast Live. And you can follow me at joe.czall on Instagram, and you can find this podcast every Friday at 5 p.m. Everywhere you find your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and everywhere else. And we are live Mondays at 8 p.m. on YouTube, and we'll be here same time next week, same bat time, same bat channel.
Will we?
Oh no, that's right. We won't be here next week. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We won't be here next week because we are going on a much-needed vacation, and maybe we'll make some videos up there just for the hell of it.
Oh, it's gonna be so hard to come.
Maybe,
You don't have
maybe
time
not.
for it.
Who knows? But thank you guys so much for tuning in. And yeah, if you have any future ideas for topics you want us to discuss, or if you have anyone you would like to see on the show, you can. The email is in the About section. You can email that email in the About section of our channel. Or if you know my phone number, you can text me, or you can DM me on Instagram at joe.czall. If we're open to whatever topics you guys would like us to discuss. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You got anything else, Matthew?
Nope.
You want to say bye?
Thank you for watching. That's it.
All right.